Hiya, happy NaNoWriMo, and welcome to part 2 of my project, during which I tried to design and draw my project side POV characters during the months of October and November. Today I'm starting the process of designing Thread, who, unlike Lisa, is kind of fuzzy in my head. I have a couple of his main features figured out, but the details just aren't there yet, and that is sort of a problem at this point. When I was working on draft 4 recently, I came across a scene where Lisa is looking down at Thread and he can see him clearly for the first time in the book, and it's just this perfect spot to add some extra detailed description of Thread outside of those obvious features that we already have. And I remember I was sitting there staring at it for about an hour trying to figure out how to describe Thread, and I got nothing. So today is the day we finally figure it out. We're going to start with some brainstorming again and just get down everything that I already know about Thread and figure out the things that I still need to figure out. Thread's main identifying feature is that he's really big and bulky and muscular. He sort of embodies the idea of an ideal soldier and an ideal leader, and he's definitely not perfect. He makes a lot of mistakes throughout the book, but he believes that he should be perfect, and I want him to look perfect in a way. Like, I want him to look like what I'd imagine the perfect soldier to look like. So obviously part of this is just gonna be making him really muscular, which is gonna be very difficult and really test my knowledge of anatomy, but we're gonna give it a try. I've also described him as having dark skin. I've always seen him in my head as being black, but like, I'm not sure on the exact skin tone and shade that I want, so we're gonna be playing around with that a little bit. But other than that, I have no idea what his hair looks like, other than presumably it being kind of dark as well, but hairstyle, hair length, no idea. He wears a uniform, which is the same uniform that the rest of the characters are gonna wear, but do I know what the uniform looks like? Not really. So far in the book I've described it as being sleeveless and including black leggings, but like, that was a placeholder description, so if I don't go for that, I'm just gonna fix the book afterwards. So like, we've got very little to go on. This is also for his summer uniform, by the way, because he does have a winter uniform as well. I don't think we're gonna work on his winter uniform during this video, because I've got 2 weeks to figure out the design, but we'll see. If we get there quickly, we might do that as well. And then the only part of his uniform that I am certain of is that he wears a Team 2 badge on his chest, which I don't think I've actually described what shape it is, but I kind of imagine it as like a shield sort of shape. But we might change that as well, who knows. As I mentioned in Lisa's video, my book is currently with beta readers, and one of the things I've been asking them is to describe how they see my characters in their head, because I am sneakily trying to get them to do my job for me. So let's take a look at their responses and see if there's anything that I can add. At the minute, only Danni and Violet has replied to these questions, so those are the only responses we're gonna be able to use, I'm afraid. So let's start with Danni's description, and just as a little disclaimer, I have actually modified this to remove something that was a spoiler, which obviously, like, it's completely fine for Danni to tell me that in a beta reading feedback question, because it was just meant for me, but I'm not sharing it with you. So Danni pictures him as a big buff man with medium brown skin and hair color and dark brown eyes. That sounds fairly accurate. I think that's basically the only things I've said about him. I don't think I actually mentioned him having dark brown eyes, but I think that's how I see him as well, so we're just gonna add that. And then Violet described him as tall and muscular, broad-shouldered with big arms, a face that's not pretty boy, but still in the realm of classically handsome. These descriptions are a lot less detailed than what I got for Lisa, which makes sense, because how can I expect my beta readers to know what my character looks like if I don't know what my character looks like, right? But there are a couple of things in here that I can use, like the dark eyes, and he is definitely in the realm of classically handsome. Thank you, Violet. This is still not a lot to go on, but I think this is as much as I'm gonna get, so I'm gonna get started sketching a couple of portraits and seeing if I can come up with something that feels like Thread. I could definitely tell the difference in how well I can visualize Lisa versus how well I can visualize Thread when working on his character design. I had no idea where to start when drawing his face. I ended up just looking for some reference of different black men that I thought might look like him, and just doodling them and playing around with different proportions and that sort of thing. I felt like because I had a less clear idea, I leaned a lot more into the experimentation phase, and I got to play around with shape language a lot more than I did with Lisa. For Thread, I decided to go with square shape language because I think it fits his personality better. He is very determined and strong-willed. I feel like superhero characters tend to use square shape language a lot, which he's obviously not a superhero, but he is like the lead soldier, the one that's always rescuing everyone. Like, he plays the hero role for most of the book. So squares definitely work from that perspective, but they're also used for characters that are very stubborn and have difficulties expressing their emotions, which definitely fit with this character. But yeah, I spent some time playing around with it. I ended up finding a face that I really liked. I used a very sort of like square looking nose, and just his general head shape is very square. So once I had one that I liked, I duplicated it a bunch of times and started working on some hairstyles. This was another thing where I just had no idea what the hairstyle looked like, and I just started playing around with it. For some reason, the first sort of haircut that sprung to mind when I tried to visualize him was like, I had to look up what the word is for this in English, but I think they're called twists, like this sort of like afro-esque hairstyle where the hair's all twisted up and then you've got it going in different directions, and I thought that looked really cool on Thread, and I was very tempted to go for one of these because I really like them, but I don't know that it fits him that well. Like, I want it to fit him, but I don't think it does from a logical standpoint. Thread is a soldier. He does not care about his looks. He just wants to get on with his job, and he's very practical, so I don't think he would go for a complicated hairstyle that would be difficult to maintain, and also it's more likely to get in his eyes or get like pulled in like tree branches and stuff when he's on missions. I mean, admittedly, Lisa has the same problem with her hair, but like, she's not a soldier at the start of the book, so I could do whatever I want with her. But yeah, I think short hair just fits his personality and situation better, but I want him to have twists. But we're gonna do the reasonable thing and go for short hair. I keep having to remind myself that even though this is an art project, the characters are not. This is a book, and it has to work as a book, and drawing them is just a fun thing I'm doing on the side. The characters don't have to be visually interesting for the book to be interesting. And I guess the main issue that I'm having with the design that I decided to go for, which is this one, is that it's boring, I guess. Like, his silhouette is very square, which is technically what I wanted, but squares are inherently boring in general, and there's just nothing that interesting about his design. He looks very generic, and that makes me sad because he's my favorite character and I want him to look interesting, but like, I don't think he would look interesting. But yeah, I've decided that I am gonna do the responsible thing and go for the boring options, so I'm gonna color him and I'll check in with you.
Full stop. Can't believe I live in your thoughts. I think about you all the time, morning, evening, and midnight. Such a wonderful delight. Forgo, give up everything that I own. Yeah, I'd give it all up now just to be with you somehow. Unexpected love was found. You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest. You're the leaves in mid-August, and I've come out here to say that I love you.
Hello again, let me show you how we're doing so far. So I have my Lisa portrait over here again, just to make sure that they're more or less the same style and level of detail. And then these are my set drawings. So I started out with this one in the middle and then just went one shade lighter and one shade darker just to see what sort of color I would prefer. I decided that I didn't like any of them, and instead I wanted a shade in between these two. I just felt like this one didn't quite have enough contrast in the black and white version, but I did like that shade better. So if I move over Here, I darkened those colors a little bit to make that shade in between, and then added some detail, obviously, and also decided to add a beard. I felt like this version looked a bit too young. I think this looks a lot more like him, and I also really like how he looks in black and white. So this is the portrait that we're going to go with, and now I just gotta design his uniform and his full body look.
That I love you. Ooh, ooh, you.
Hello again. I've been chipping away at Thread's full body design a little bit more, and I started out by just drawing what his body would look like without clothes. Let's just ignore that. And then I started putting on some clothes over it. I didn't end up doing multiple versions of it. This next one is just tweaking it a little bit, but I spent a really long time just looking at different images of clothes and sort of deciding what I wanted. I decided to keep this sort of tank top sleeveless thing that I described in the book, but didn't want to go with the black leggings. Instead, I went for these more military looking trousers with lots of pockets and things so they can carry stuff around during missions, and like big military boots that I am so bad at drawing boots, but they'll do. And this is where I am right now, and I've been tipping away at this 3/4 view of his face in this pose that I drew him in for literally an hour, and I hate it. I don't like it whatsoever. It does not look like him. I know the beard is missing, but just trying to get his features in the right place and trying to make him look not completely stupid, it's just not working. So I decided that we are going to do this. There we go. Problem solved. Now let's finish him up and add some more details. I have officially finished my full standing up person drawing for Thread. I'm so happy. Like, it's not great. I want to redo the arms at some point, and the boots definitely need to be done again. But I couldn't visualize him before doing this process, and now when I think about my book and really think of scenes that I've written in my head, I see him with this face, and I can visualize my stories so much better now just for having done this, and I love him so much. He's not perfect, but he's perfect to me. I ended up moving his arms so like behind him because A, I didn't want to draw his hands, and B, it was hiding his dagger, so I wanted to make that more visible, even though I'm not very pleased with how his dagger turned out in the first place, because I don't know how to draw like a leather sheath, and I looked up some reference, but I couldn't find anything that looked exactly like how I wanted it to. I also very nearly forgot to give him a badge, which is insane because that's like the only part of his uniform that I had figured out, but I added his Team 2 badge, and I decided this is something that I'm gonna have to change in the book because I've never described this in the book. I gave it like a little line on top of the badge, which I'm gonna use to symbolize that he's a team leader or division leader or whatever. I can't even keep up with my own terminology. No wonder my beta readers are confused. He is the leader of Division 1 of Team 2, which is why he has a stripe on his badge, and then people that are not will just have the 2 without the stripe. And then I'm thinking of changing the captain badges to be like a different design, but we'll explore that not next video, but the one after. The other thing that I want to do at some point is to add scars, because he accumulates 500,000 scars throughout book 1, and he's been a soldier for over 10 years before book 1 starts, so he should have scars already, otherwise it doesn't make any sense, but it's fine for now. But we'll iterate on these. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching the design process for my little baby Thread, and I will see you for the next video where we design Ryan's character. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I hope Nano is going well for you, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.